We need Greenland for national security purposes. Canada and the United States, that would really be something. The Panama Canal is vital to our country.
Canada, Greenland, the Panama Canal. Donald Trump isn't holding back. He suggested using military force to claim Greenland, the world's largest island, and the Panama Canal, the gateway to global trade. And now he's got Canada in his sights. Over its 250-year history, the United States has reshaped its map time and again. It bought Alaska and Florida, annexed Hawaii and Texas, and even lost the Philippines. If a few things had gone differently, the U.S. map could look radically different today. This is how the U.S. could look like today. The United States is a giant, spanning over 3.7 million square miles. It's the fourth largest country in the world by area, only behind Russia, Canada, and China. But just a few hundred years ago, it was barely a fraction of that size. In 1783, after securing independence, the fledgling nation only stretched to the Mississippi River, roughly 887,000 square miles, about a quarter of its current size. But it didn't take long for that to change. In 1803, the United States struck a deal with Napoleon Bonaparte. Yeah, that Napoleon, the short French guy who tried to conquer Europe, the Louisiana Purchase. For $15 million, or about $370 million today, Napoleon handed over 530 million acres of land, territory that now spans 828,000 square miles. The deal included the entirety of Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska, large parts of North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, and Colorado, and smaller portions of Minnesota, New Mexico, Texas, and it also brought New Orleans under U.S. control. Overnight, the U.S. nearly doubled its size, securing control of the Mississippi River and unlocking vast western territories. And that was just the beginning. Just 16 years after the United States made another big move, in 1819, the U.S. struck a deal with Spain, known as the Adams-Onis Treaty, to acquire Florida. For $5 million Spanish dollars, about $100 million today, the U.S. gained control of the peninsula. But it wasn't just about Florida. The deal also settled a long-standing boundary dispute along the Sabine River in Spanish Texas. This was America's second major land purchase. By 1844, Texas had spent 8 years as an independent republic after boldly breaking away from Mexico. The U.S. couldn't resist the chance to bring Texas into the fold, and in 1846, Texas officially joined the Union. But this move came with consequences. It sparked the Mexican-American War. The U.S. emerged victorious, and with it came even more land, including California and New Mexico, reshaping the nation's borders once again. And the expansion continued almost 20 years later. In 1867, Russia, afraid of losing Alaska to Britain, sold it to the U.S. for $7.2 million, about $135 million today. What seemed like a bad deal at first has more than paid off, thanks to its gold rush, vast oil reserves, and strategic Arctic position. Talk about a return on investment. That was the third major land purchase for the U.S. The late 19th century marked the United States' rise as a global power, fueled by a series of territorial acquisitions that stretched from the Pacific to the Caribbean. In 1898, the U.S. formally annexed the Hawaiian Islands. That same year, the U.S. emerged victorious in the Spanish-American War, bringing even more territories into its fold: Puerto Rico, Guam, Cuba, and the Philippines. The Philippines, meanwhile, came with a price tag. The U.S. paid $20 million for the islands, equivalent to $966 million today. Around the same time, in 1899, the U.S. gained control of Eastern Samoa, now known as American Samoa, through the Tripartite Convention, which divided the Samoan Islands between the U.S. and Germany. In 1917, the U.S. struck a deal with Denmark to acquire the Virgin Islands for $25 million in gold. But this wasn't the first time the U.S. had its eyes on Danish territory. Decades before purchasing the Virgin Islands, in 1867, Secretary of State William H. Seward floated the idea of buying Greenland and Iceland for $5.5 million. Nothing came of it, but the idea resurfaced in 1946 when President Harry Truman offered Denmark $100 million in gold bullion for Greenland, about $1.6 billion today. Fast forward to 2019, during his first term, President Donald Trump revived the idea of buying Greenland, sparking global headlines. While the proposal was swiftly rejected by both Danish and Greenlandic officials, Trump doubled down on his ambitions during his December 2024 campaign, calling Greenland essential for national security. By January 2025, President-elect Trump took things further, refusing to rule out the use of military force to ensure the island. But this raises a critical question. Why does the United States want Greenland so badly? Greenland isn't just a frozen expanse of ice. It's a strategic and resource-rich powerhouse that has long captured American interest. Spanning over 836,000 square miles, it's larger than Alaska and sits perfectly between North America and Europe, offering unmatched geopolitical advantages. The U.S. already operates the Pituffik Space Base, formerly Thule Air Base, in northern Greenland, a key outpost for missile defense, space surveillance, and early warning systems. Acquiring the entire island would grant the U.S. control over emerging Arctic trade routes, made accessible by melting ice, and a critical edge against Russian and Chinese ambitions in the region. Beneath Greenland's ice lies a treasure trove of resources, including rare earth metals, uranium, and vast oil and gas reserves. These could drastically reduce America's reliance on Chinese supply chains, securing its dominance in critical industries. Beyond this, Greenland's hydropower potential and newly accessible resources make it a frontier of opportunity as the Arctic continues to transform. For the U.S., Greenland represents more than land. It's a strategic vision for the future, echoing past successes like the Louisiana Purchase and the Alaska Purchase. If secured, Greenland could reshape the global balance of power, giving America the upper hand in the Arctic's emerging geopolitical arena. Greenland is not the only place of land that Trump's targeting. He recently declared that the U.S. is being overcharged for passage through the canal and didn't shy away from threatening military force to reclaim it. Trump criticized the decision to transfer the canal to Panama in 1977, calling it a significant error, and even made the dubious claim that Chinese troops are operating the canal. Trump's message was clear. Panama doesn't lower fees, he would demand the canal to be returned to us entirely, swiftly, and without hesitation. The U.S.'s connection to the Panama Canal runs deep. Built by the United States in the early 20th century, it was a monumental engineering feat that transformed global trade. For decades, the U.S. controlled the Panama Canal Zone, maintaining its authority until 1977, when treaties were signed to gradually transfer control back to Panama. By 1999, Panama assumed full control of the canal, marking the end of nearly a century of American dominance. Mexico is also in Trump's sights. Recently, he proposed renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, boldly declaring, "We do most of the work there, and it's ours." Calling the new name appropriate, Trump tied this idea to ongoing disputes with Mexico and U.S. dominance in the region. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum fired back with sharp sarcasm, suggesting North America be renamed America Mexicana in response. But Trump's comments echo a time when U.S. ambitions didn't just rebrand, they redrew maps. During the Mexican-American War, the United States didn't stop as asserting its influence. It occupied major parts of northern Mexico, including Matamoros, Monterrey, Saltillo, Veracruz, Chihuahua, and even Mexico City itself. The war's aftermath reshaped the continent, with the U.S. annexing vast territories like California, New Mexico, and Texas, permanently redefining the North American map. And it's not just Mexico. Trump has also turned his attention northward, suggesting that Canada become the 51st state. Dismissing the U.S.-Canada border as an artificially drawn line, Trump upped the rhetoric, calling Justin Trudeau, Governor Trudeau, and hinting at imposing 25% tariffs on Canadian goods as leverage. But this isn't the first time American aspirations have targeted Canada. During the War of 1812, U.S. forces invaded parts of what is now Canada, occupying cities like Windsor, Niagara, and advancing towards Montreal. Though these efforts were ultimately short-lived, they left an indelible mark on the history of U.S.-Canada relations and cemented the border we know today. The United States we know today is already vast and culturally diverse, shaped by bold deals, wars, and ambitions. But imagining the map of what could have been, a U.S. stretching from the Arctic expanses of Greenland to the tropical islands of the Philippines, from the Canadian tundra to the Panama Canal, and across the Caribbean to Cuba, offers a fascinating glimpse into alternate realities shaped by history's twists and turns. Such a map would showcase the United States even more sprawling in geography and diverse in culture. Of course, America isn't alone in its journey of shifting borders. Throughout history, nations across the globe have redrawn their maps through conquest, diplomacy, and even necessity. Borders have always been fluid, reflecting the tides of human ambition, conflict, and cooperation. And as history shows us, they'll likely continue to evolve in the centuries to come. So what do you think? Could these alternative maps have worked, or would they have been a challenge too vast to manage? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories. Thank you for watching.